Hello and welcome to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael. It is my favorite Tourism Tuesday of the month. I'm really going out on a limb here now. I used to just say Justin was my favorite tourism guy.
Yes.
Because you were the only guy, except for Lynn, who comes, the fifth, whenever there's a fifth Tuesday. Yes. But now I'm actually putting it out there. You're my favorite Tourism Tuesday.
Thank you. I won't tell anyone else. Actually, I will tell them, but it's okay. It's not like it's on the air or anything.
I know, right?
It's fine.
So how have you been? I haven't seen you for a whole month.
Fantastic.
Yeah?
Slogging through the rain, but
I know.
How it is.
At some point, fall's going to be here, and the sun is going to come out, and the leaves are going to change colors, and we're all going to be happy.
The forecast is for gorgeous leaves, so,
Yeah.
Barring everything else, hopefully we should have some gorgeous leaves. If the sun pops through, then
Well, and there's so much to do in Winchester. It doesn't matter whether it's raining or the sun is out anyway. There's a ton of stuff that's going on.
Exactly. And you can go to farm markets in the rain. I mean, you don't need to be out.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
That's why they made umbrellas. That's why they made raincoats. And I think it was you that told me once that there is no such thing as bad weather. There's just poor choice in clothing.
There's just bad clothing. Yeah, that was the tourism director for the state of Michigan. Told me that. Yeah, smart words.
And we totally stole it and have started using it as if it's
Well, he's in Michigan, so he's got a little rougher than we do. But yeah, exactly. So ton of things to do. Again, I'll throw this pitch in here because we're not going to have time. We have a lot of guests today, so we're not going to have time. Visit WinchesterVA.com. Click on the events tab. Brand new, beautiful events calendar. Everything under the sun is on there.
Awesome. So we do have a lot of guests today, and we chatted before we started that there is probably the potential that we're going to continue this conversation after the show because there's so much that we know we want to talk about, and as you know, we have limited amount of time. So keep in mind that as we start our conversation, we may continue it off air, but you'll be able to hear the whole thing on the podcast and everything after we're done.
Yes. And we got cool guests today. This is the first time I've had them all in one room together.
And one of them is my favorite already because she brought me a bottle of wine. No offense, guys. I'm just saying.
Total bribery.
She's going to get 90% of the airtime.
Yes.
You'll notice.
So tell me who you've got.
Okay. Loretta Briede from the Briede Family Winery or Vineyards? Vineyards. Okay. And somebody's going to have to explain to me the difference between winery and vineyards, please, because I always get it backwards. Justin Bogaty or Bogaty, depending on who you're talking to in which region, from James Charles and Veramar and others in the area, and Shawn Steffey from Valerie Hill Winery, which is, right down the road here, and beautiful setting too with that historic house and great wines. Yeah. Awesome. But we got sorts of
So
cool
tell me
things.
Why you chose wines. Tell me what it is about wineries.
We've done breweries before. We had all the breweries here in one room, and then a little bit later we had all of the coffee shop. We had a number of the coffee shops. So I thought it would be kind of cool to hear from everybody because there's a different perspective. We have 3 wineries, so we have a trail. We now have a trail. You can go to 3. That's what people want. We're very fortunate to have 3 very different wineries, different experiences, different products, which is really cool. So you can not go to one and say, okay, I don't need to go to the other 2. You got to go to all 3 to get all the different experiences. So I thought it would be kind of cool to have them in here and talk about how they're different and their experiences and their histories and why they're doing what they're doing and the rain and the black mold and all that stuff. And I thought
it's not black mold, it's black rot.
Black rot.
Loretta's already filling me in
sorry.
on that. And she's going to get to go first because after all, she did bring me a bottle of wine.
She did bring me a bottle of wine.
I'm just saying.
And she's the newest too.
So Loretta, tell me a little bit about Briede. How did you get started? Where are you? What do you have? Just kind of give me your 60-second elevator speech, but I'll give you about a minute and a half because, again, you brought me a bottle of wine.
Okay, great. Well, we're located about 10 minutes outside of Winchester, and we are certified organic grower. And we are off of Apple Pie Ridge. And we have hybrids being organic. And we have a grape variety called Arundel that we grow, that it was supposed to be one of the most disease-resistant grape varieties out there. So we decided to purchase that grape. The downside was nobody told us it was its Achilles heel was black rot, which organically we have nothing for. So it's been quite a challenge. We have another still wine from Verde. It's a white. And other than that, we carry rosés and French champagne, sparkling wines, because we really are set up to be more of a sparkling wine producer than still wines. And we have sparkling wine that will be released in 2019. It's sitting on its lees right now at Veritas. And so we have an event scheduled October 6th. It's our first one. And it's a fall celebration.
That's my birthday.
Is it? Oh, you
Yes.
have to come
Really?
out.
It
Birthdays
is.
at the Briede Family Vineyards get a free glass of champagne.
Oh,
So
wow.
you have to
All
come
right.
out.
There we go.
And it's a big birthday, too. It ends in a 0.
Is it? Oh, well,
Yes.
we'd love
Maybe
to
two.
have you. And so we have Kim Burke coming out that day, and she's a local artist and songwriter, and Up and Smoke Barbecue, and it will be running from 1 to 4. So we're really excited about it. It's our first event. We've only been open 9 weeks, so we are very, very new, to the industry, and we've been a grape grower for 5 years, and so that's what we've been doing. And last year was our first crop. So.
Awesome. So, and it's kind of funny because we're almost going to the other end of the spectrum because, Justin, you've been around, not you, Justin, the
Yeah,
other
other
Justin.
Justin,
You guys have been around for a while.
Well, James Charles is relatively new, but Veramar has been around for a long time. Actually, we were the 63rd winery in the state. During that period where there was tons of expansion of wineries. And so I've been doing it for 16 years now, but I guess the two wineries, when we talked about like distinct differences and stuff like that, so our two wineries are both kind of modeled after European wineries. Veramar is what we would kind of consider very traditional European style wines and the atmosphere and the feel. And then James Charles is what we classify as modern French. I think most people that once they kind of go up there, they think, oh, that's very California-esque. But actually, it's French modern. So we took a lot of trips to France, studied what the modern French winemakers are doing.
That sounds like a horrible job.
It was absolutely horrible. If you love to eat and drink, that is the best place to go. And then for us, we produce a lot of the French varietals and mostly drier style wines. And our big focus has always been on raising Virginia wine quality to heights of which we hope to be able to achieve. And I think we're starting to achieve some of those things with the recognition that we get from like Wine Enthusiast and Wine Spectator and Decanter magazines and articles that are getting written about like the next up-and-coming region to come is Virginia, and so that's kind of been our goal for 16 years is to elevate Virginia wines into that kind of status. And then we too have a lot of kind of cool events coming up at Veramar. We have a Stomp the Grapes festival, which is exactly what it sounds like it is. You get in a barrel and you get to stomp some
Just
grapes.
like I Love Lucy.
Just like I Love Lucy. That's what people have envisioned in their head.
Again,
that's not
my
how we
birthday is
do it.
ending in a 0.
Right.
That's why I know I Love Lucy.
And we don't do it that way nowadays, but that's one of the big events at Veramar. And then, like at James Charles, we're doing something really fun, which is an adults-only costume party for Halloween.
Oh, that's cool. So tell me, where is James Charles?
James Charles is about 7 miles outside of Winchester on Middle Road, 4063 Middle Road, and not too far from my compadres right down the street.
Oh, and Veramar is in Berryville.
Veramar is in Berryville, Virginia on Corey Road, 905 Corey Road.
Awesome. Well, Shawn, I tell you what, let's take a quick break. When we come back, you'll get the whole 2 or 3 minutes.
It's nice to save the best for last, isn't it?
See, I kind of figured you were going to go that route. So that makes sense.
Before we do that, real quick, Justin, why is it called James Charles?
James Charles is named after my father.
Okay.
So my father's is James and Charles, and we purchased that land from the Robinsons, who were gracious enough to they're great people in Virginia, and we wanted to pay kind of homage to him. He's been in our industry and is considered to be one of the founding fathers of our industry. He actually helped establish the Shenandoah Valley Wine Trail and was their first president of that organization. And it's kind of grown and taken a life of its own. But the premise was always to how can we help each other and how can we improve quality and how can we improve tourism.
Oh, perfect. So I tell you what, let's take a quick break. When we come back, Justin's going to stay with us. We're Tourism Tuesday, Winchester, Frederick County edition. Loretta is here from Briede. Shawn is here from Valerie Hill. We're going to talk to him next. And you've been listening to Justin, the other Justin, from James Charles Veramar et al. I think is how we decided we're going to do that. I'm just Janet Michael. I'm a drinker of wine. I don't make it. I don't grow it. I don't do anything but enjoy it. So stay tuned. We'll be back in just a few minutes for more of The Valley Today. Expecting to hear a commercial? Well, that's kind of what this is. First, I want to thank you for listening to the Valley Today podcast. You're one of many who listen to the show this way. Sometimes it's because our listeners didn't know that if they're away from the radio, they can still listen on our website, via the TuneIn app on their phone, or even on Alexa. We're also available in the Apple Podcast app and the Google Play Music app. Sometimes our listeners are just busy and they want to listen when it fits their schedule. Or maybe it's a guest of the show who want to hear what they sounded like when they were on the radio. We even have a few binge listeners who listen to a week's worth at a time. So if you want those people, your potential customers, to hear your message, your ad could have been here. And the bonus, your commercial isn't restricted to just 30 or 60 seconds. You can take up to 2 minutes to talk to those customers. There's even the opportunity to be the exclusive sponsor of the Valley Today podcast, which gets you on-air mentions at the end of every show. If all of this sounds interesting to you, give me a call at the station, 540-635-4121, or send me an email to janet@theriver953.com. You can also find all of my contact info by searching Janet Michael on our website at theriver953.com. So do one of those things. Get in touch and let me tell you how we can talk to those customers in this podcast every single day. And now, back to the show. Welcome back to the Valley Today. I am your host, Janet Michael, and this segment is brought to you by Valley Health, offering the latest minimally invasive surgery advancements. You can learn more at valleyhealthlink.com/MIS. It is Tourism Tuesday, so we are in the studio today with Justin Kerns. He is my Winchester tourism dude.
I am.
And we have a whole studio full of wine and sommelier. Where do I go? What? How should I address
what do you guys
Shawn?
call yourselves?
Yeah.
That's a tough question. It depends on the day of the week and what role I'm playing. Because when you own your own business, winery or otherwise, you might be the janitor one day and the bookkeeper the next. So,
all right. So, Shawn, I'll let you skip over that portion of your conversation about Valerie Hill. But tell me about Valerie Hill. Where are you? What do you guys do? How long have you been at it? Give me your kind of overview.
Well, Valerie Hill is located in Stevens City, right near the intersection of Marlborough Road and Middle Road. Mm-hmm. Not far down the road from our friends over at James Charles. So very easy for people to visit each winery in even a 1.5 to 2 hour visit. Very easy to do. So we see a lot of that. I think Justin would agree. We see a lot of cross visitation, if you will. Valerie Hill became a vision of ours back in 2007. We decided at that point in time, Virginia wine was getting so good and we were drinking so much of it, it would be cheaper if we just made it ourselves. We might have been wrong about that assumption. However, with getting the right people on board, we were able to start bottling wine in 2010 and 2011. Both of those years, only 500 cases for each of those years. Opened in 2012 with about 1,000 cases on the shelf, and we've grown significantly. I do think that we entered the wine industry right at the right time. Tourism in Virginia wine was really starting to boom. Back in that era, people were starting to realize that Virginia wine is a good product. Mm-hmm. You don't have to go to California and spend $80 a bottle to get something that's really high quality. So we were able to grow much more rapidly than we expected. And for 2018, bearing some potential fruit loss due to rain, we should bottle between 3,500 and 4,000 cases. So that's pretty significant growth for a winery of our size. And a unique aspect I think Justin touched on earlier today was that our tasting room is located in a pre-Civil War era manor house, which is a really unique environment. We still have the original hardwood floors, the original staircase, original fireplaces.
And the original ghosts.
The original ghosts.
And you take advantage of that because you have events that kind of feature those ghosts.
We do. We have guests sometimes that try to take advantage of that without our permission. So for those of you listening, you cannot sneak up to the attic and camp out after hours. But we do offer an event starting in October of every year called History and Hauntings. It is a dinner and paranormal tour. Dinner provided by Village Square Restaurant. Chef Dan Kalber in Winchester, one of Winchester's great chefs. And after dinner, there's a roughly 2-hour tour of the manor house. It's all candlelit. And we tell you true historic fact. This house was privately owned until we purchased the property. So its history and secrets were mainly disguised from the public. No one realized this little gem in Frederick County existed until we purchased it, realized who had lived there, who built the property. I'm not going to tell you on the air because you've got to come visit us to get that story. But it really is a unique architectural feature of Frederick County, and we're really pleased that we could open it to the public and serve some really good Virginia wine.
So are you open 7 days a week, or are you only open weekends?
7 days a week. 7 days a week. We only close on major holidays. And all that's listed on our website at ValerieHillWinery.com. So anyone interested in visiting can check out just to make sure we're open. But in general, 7 days a week.
Well, and before we were, when we were talking earlier, Justin had the question about how you guys kind of come together as a wine community. And I know you and Justin were talking about the fact that you guys collaborated quite a bit, and even Loretta came to you and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing this." Is that the norm, or is that unique to the Shenandoah Valley?
It is the norm. In fact, people sit here right now thinking, it's Valerie Hill, James Charles, Briede. They've got to be out for each other to try to see who can get the biggest crowd on a weekend. But the fact is, Justin was our first winemaker. And that's very common in this industry. When you're small, you can't have a full-time winemaker. No one can take on a full-time job to make 500 cases of wine. It doesn't make any sense. So we went to Justin. He took us on. Of course, since then we've grown, and as of this year, have had to move on to someone that can tackle our demands, more full time. But there definitely is a camaraderie in the industry that you don't find in a lot of other industries.
Yeah, and even when Valerie Hill was interested in purchasing the land, they had contacted us and had us come take a look at their property to see if it was something that we thought that they could do, and we said, yes, this is how you can approach this, and this is the house is just absolutely spectacular, and so we knew it would be a great success. It was just a matter of getting them quality wine and the amount of wine. Of course, the first year that you open, you're throwing a dart completely blind at a board, and you miss. We missed at James Charles wildly. We said, based off of past history, based off of what we believe that the market is going to do, we need this many cases of wine. We missed so wildly that we were sold out of darn near probably 65% of the wines within 6 months of opening. So it's a challenge, but we all kind of communicate together. When you first started or were interested in starting it, you had come to us. I think you had come to Shawn and said, "Is this doable? Is this feasible?
Yeah. What am I up against?"
Yeah. and
you said
we lied to you.
And
we lied to you.
Yeah.
What was I thinking? Yeah.
Yes. And that just happens in our industry. It's competitive, but it's very friendly.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody's up against a jam, just even a few days ago, we had some people that were bottling some wine down the street from us. They blew up a couple of filters. Obviously, you need that to bottle wine with. And so they called me and they said, "Hey, can I come down and borrow some filters and an argon tank, and we'll pay you?" And I'm like, "Just come, get it. We'll worry about the details later. I got repaid with a bottle of champagne, true champagne, and I was perfectly happy. You know, that's a great neighborly.
So you're like
thing
me.
to
You're an
do.
easy mark.
Yeah, I'm very, very easy.
Loretta's like, I have champagne.
Yeah, and we started too. I mean, we had King Family Vineyards was Matthew Fano. He's employed with them full time, and he was our winemaker with the varieties that we have. And we were so excited that they took us under their wing and helped us start to make wine. So, you don't start up and just do this, usually. You need the support of people in the industry and others. And so we're very grateful for the companies that and the wineries that have been in business that can share their story and hopefully avert some of the problems that we encounter.
And have everybody grow as a whole.
And as it grows as a whole, because most people will visit, like 3 wineries in their tour, and we offer something completely different. We have a red variety that is new in the world market, Arundel, and we're supposedly, according to, like I said, Cornell University, we're the only person that has it 100%. So
Awesome.
It's a unique wine, and so I have something that it's a still wine. We want to lead toward those sparklings, but we do have some still varieties available.
Cool. So I tell you what, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'll get contact information, website information, location details one more time, and then we're going to continue this conversation after the show because I've been compiling a whole list of questions that I still want to ask that we don't have time to do on the air. So, Justin, you're going to hang out with me for a little bit longer?
Ma'am.
Awesome. It is Tourism Tuesday, Winchester, Frederick County edition here on the Valley today. We'll be back in just a minute.
There's always more to the story. At the River 95.3, that's what our new podcast, Another Look, offers. A deeper look into the news stories you hear about every week. I'm Dylan Nichols, news director at the River 95.3. Join Janet Michael from the Valley Today and I as we review news from our area, as well as some odd news stories from around the country. You can find Another Look on the river953.com and listen to our take on the news whenever, wherever. Another Look offering you a weekend review with a twist. You can find a new one every Friday in the Apple Podcast app, in the Google Play Music app, or online at theriver953.com.
Welcome back to the Valley today. I am your host, Janet Michael, and this segment is brought to you by Valley Health Urgent Care. Can't wait to see a doctor? Now you don't have to. You can even check in online and save time at vhurgentcare.com. So we've got about 2 minutes left in the studio. Justin Kerns is here from Winchester, Frederick County Convention and Visitors Bureau.
I know I haven't talked the whole time.
Did I
That's
get
okay.
it right?
Yes, you did.
See? Ha ha ha. I've been
It's okay.
practicing.
You have.
And we've been talking to some fabulous winemakers. I'm just going to
Yes.
say winemakers. Y'all couldn't decide on your own titles, so I'm now dubbing you the winemakers of the Shenandoah Valley. How about that?
There you go.
So
Northern
Loretta,
Shenandoah.
and since we are kind of coming to an end, we're going to talk more. We're going to have more in the podcast after we're done here on the air. So I encourage you to make sure you go to our website and hear that. But Loretta, tell me, where are you and where can people get more information?
Okay, we are located off of Apple Pie Ridge, 450 Green Spring Road in Winchester, and we have a website, www.the with an S.com, and Briede is spelled Briede.
Perfect. And Justin, where can they get more information about you, James Charles, and Veramar?
James Charles is at www.jamescharleswine.com, and Veramar is the more complicated one. It's Veramar Vineyards, which is Veramar, and then vineyard.com.
Awesome. And Shawn, Valerie Hill?
You can get everything you need, including our address, phone number, Facebook link, on our website at ValerieHillWinery.com, and that's VALERIE hillwinery.com.
Awesome. And Justin, events for the month and
Visit
the year?
winchesterva.com, click on events tab.
Awesome.
We got tons of them. Everything you got.
Everything that's happening, you've got it.
Yep.
So we are going to wrap up today's episode of Tourism Tuesday. As I mentioned earlier, we are going to continue this conversation. So when you go to our website, in about a half an hour, you'll be able to hear the entire podcast, including some of the conversations that we're about to have that we just didn't have time for on the air. But I hope you'll join me back here tomorrow. It's the Valley Business Today. So Ashley is coming from the Top of Virginia Regional Chamber. She is bringing Winchester Wireless, I think. I could be totally
That's
wrong.
your job.
But
I don't know.
I know. I'm looking at you like you should know what this is. But I hope you'll join me back here tomorrow for a brand new episode of The Valley Today. Well, welcome back to the Valley today after the show. As I promised when we were on the air, we have a whole lot more.
This is the real show.
Yes, this is where, we don't have to go to commercial. We can just talk and randomly, get into the weeds.
Now we're going to run out of stuff to say.
Now we're going to have 3 minutes and then it'll be finished.
Right.
So I'm going to reintroduce. So just in case, well, you know what? I will reintroduce anyway because I probably should. Justin Kerns is here. It was Tourism Tuesday on the air. It is still Tourism Tuesday on this podcast.
Yes.
He is the executive director for the Winchester Frederick County Convention and Visitors Bureau.
Good job. Yes.
Visit winchesterva.com.
Yep.
Loretta Briede is here. She is with Briede Family Vineyards, and we're going to talk about that in a second. Justin Bogaty, is here with James Charles and Veramar. Shawn Steffey is also here from Valerie Hill. So there was a ton of things that we kind of wanted to talk about that we just didn't have time on the air. And the first one I'm going to ask too is, because Justin asked this earlier, what's the difference when you see that you're a winery versus you're a vineyard? I've never really understood why some of them have vineyard in their name and some of them have winery. So that was a good question you asked them.
Why?
Yeah,
is there? I think
on
one level, it's the choice of a name. It's a business decision. Obviously, in order to sell wine in Virginia, you have to grow grapes. So, like it or not, you are a vineyard. So every winery in the state grows grapes, which means they have a vineyard. But naming your business, I could have easily been Valerie Hill Cellars had I chosen.
Really?
It's for us. It's no. We are obviously Valerie Hill Vineyard and Winery.
And why did you? So you went with that because of the way it sounded? I mean,
absolutely.
Okay.
And
that makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. There's importance in a name. I mean, it's the very first impact that people have about your business is that name. So obviously, we took that very seriously. Now, of course, for us, our name was decided for us because our property, dating back to 1807, was Valerie Hill. That was the name of the estate. And when we purchased the property, we just did not have the desire to change that history. So we altered the name we had previously for our business to Valerie Hill.
Awesome. So how about you, Justin? Because, Veramar is substantially older than James Charles. You told us a little bit on the air how James Charles got its name, but Veramar is a little unique.
Not all vineyards have to be wineries. And I think that's really the major difference. And not all wineries have to be vineyards. In at least in our state. So the classification, most are, if you are a winery, most are also a vineyard, and that's why it probably makes the most sense for you to go with that. But there are vineyards who just grow grapes and don't produce any wine.
They sell it to wineries.
They sell it to wineries.
Okay. They are a vine yard.
And then there are commercial wineries that don't necessarily have to have any grapes in the ground. And you're probably a little bit more familiar with them, like in Washington, D.C., City Winery. They don't have any grapes. They don't have any property in which they have those grapes. So that's a major difference. And I think our focus is to, on the vineyard side, is to make sure that we're growing the best viticulturally sound grapes that we can to produce the best quality wine. I am a winemaker and a graduate of UC Davis School of Enology, which is the study of winemaking. So the saying goes, you cannot make bad grapes into good wine, period. It's just a physical impossibility. But we can sure take great grapes and screw it up royally. So that's what we try not to do at all times. And so that gives you a sense, an idea of why people name their places in that style.
And did you give that any thought, Loretta, when you guys were, because you mentioned
Certainly.
You're 9 weeks in. I mean, you are truly the newborn.
5 years
we
and
are.
9
I am
weeks.
definitely the new kid on the block. But what we decided, what we wanted to do is, because when we did do the research and we went to Valerie Hill and we went to Veramar and we talked to people about growing grapes organically, and Virginia Tech and multiple places. They said it's going to be very difficult for you to do that, and they were all right. I mean, they're all right. Yeah. But our passion to protect the soil and our passion to try to be responsible with chemicals led us down this path of choosing to be organic. It takes probably 3 years to change your land from non-organic to organic certification. Wow. And so we had started with some really beautiful soil with good numbers on our soil. So we wanted to maintain that. And when we asked the people when we did soil analysis, say, what can we grow here? And they said, anything you want. And so we were like, okay, great. That's a good place to start, considering that we're going in this with one hand tied. And so we wanted to have really, really good soil, because what makes good grapes is really good soil. And then, once the grapes are amazing, then people like Justin.
In theory, everything falls into place.
Right?
One of the nice things about where we're at in the valley, the valley is in my personal opinion, and one of the greatest places in the state of Virginia to grow grapes.
Yes.
So we are surrounded by mountains on both sides, and that creates rain shadow effect. And if you think about where wines are produced from, and they have world recognizable names, you'll start to hear that Valley is a very integral part of that. So if I said name, 5 wine regions, I guarantee that 5 of them are going to have Valley behind
the first
name.
one that came to mind was Napa Valley.
Napa Valley, Walla Walla Valley, Loire Valley. Right. I mean, you just name it. And the Shenandoah Valley is very conducive to that as well. So along with your statement about finding the ideal place, I think we found the right ideal place. It's a matter of attracting the tourism and the people to come to our wineries, to taste our products, to see what we're doing. And I think one of the things that we all pride ourselves on is the preservation of the land, the architecture, and wine is such a unique product in that they tell you that if you really want to experience local things, eat the local cheeses, drink the local wine, because there's no other product that is tied so closely to the soil. And the French have a term for it called terroir, and that's what we are constantly striving to create, so that you can recognize Virginia wine against other world-class wines and know that it's distinctly Virginian versus French or versus Napa or versus Oregon or California.
Well, and one of the things that, I feel like I've kind of learned, and maybe I already knew it and just didn't equate all of it together before, is that you guys are winemakers, you're business owners, and you're farmers. And I don't know that a lot of people from the outside looking in, enjoying a bottle of wine, think of you as farmers.
Yeah,
I think that's one of the most, the largest misconception about our industry. People think that we go into work, wearing our blazers and our dress pants, and we sip wine. The fact is, we're dirty, we sweat, we're outside, we're sunburnt, some of us more than others. Shout out to my buddy Tyler, who's back at the vineyard right now, working while I sit here and talk to you folks. But it's the glamorous side of winemaking is a very small part of the process. That's what the public sees. But the vast majority of what we do is manual labor and farming. And
that's why you really have to love it. You have to have this passion for it. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to go the distance.
Yeah, and there's not many people, to tap on to what Shawn was saying, not only do we grow it, but then we convert it. We bottle it. We market it. We have all aspects of it. And if you name another industry out there, they produce a widget. And that widget goes to another place, and that widget gets tied together with another widget. It's very...
Somebody else puts it in a box, somebody else ships it, and then it could have 15 hands on it from the original.
That is not the case in the wine industry, and especially our current state as well. I mean, there are wineries that are pushing the envelope in our state. I mean, Steve Case has a winery in Virginia. Trump has a winery in Virginia. Their hands aren't as dirty as our hands are. So our industry is changing and evolving. And, when we started years ago, we were much like Shawn, and we started off producing 500 cases at Veramar. Now we produce 10,000 cases, and that's still boutique. That's still boutique. In terms of like California standards, that's actually quite small. But in the state of Virginia, that's kind of on the mid-tier, large size.
So then let me ask you, how many, and Loretta, you and I talked about this briefly before we started the show. How many, give me some, a visual, how many grapes or how many rows? I mean, people drive by wineries and we see the rows and rows and rows. So how many of those does it take to make a case of wine? I mean, when you're talking, to me, 500 cases, like, holy crap, that's a whole lot of wine. But in reality, it's even more grapes.
If you look at a vine and you just one single vine, and this is probably the easiest, most logical way to think about it, one bottle or one vine is going to produce 2 bottles of wine. Okay?
Really?
So, and that's very simple. So when most people like drive by and they see grapes hanging there, that's not what I see. I see bottles of wine kind of neatly hanging there, waiting to be picked and then processed and not screwed up by me. So that's kind of a general sense of it. But it does take a lot of acreage to produce those types of wines, those quality wines and quantities that we're talking about.
And the different varieties are finicky, aren't they? Depending on the which direction the slope is facing and the microclimates and the soil
where they're getting their
stuff.
sun.
I know just enough to not know what I'm talking about.
You know enough to be dangerous.
Yeah.
Well, each variety has a different characteristic, and when it, in Virginia we have 160 days of growing season. So when you pick wines that are going to work in Virginia, you need to be able to have them good bud break before the frost, and you need to be able to ripen and get them in so you get your chemistry, your Brix level, whatever pH, whatever you need to have to make the style wine that you're making. So when you look for varieties, and they have to be conducive, we do things today like putting them on rootstocks, for instance, and grow them with particular, that goes with the particular soil that we have here. And so there's all these little things that, make up why we choose and do what we do in Virginia. And I think, as Justin said, we're young in the industry, and we're trying to find that grape that is going to be identifiable and work so well in the state of Virginia. France has done it, and California has done it somewhat. But Virginia's working really hard to do that, and people like Justin and Valerie Hill, when they're making wines and trying to find that exact grape that's going to put Virginia as the grape that's going to work in Virginia the best.
Well, and so, Loretta, you mentioned earlier, you were talking about, and I wrote this down so I would remember to ask you, that you do sparkling. You were talking about the different wines, sparkling versus still. What, for somebody who's listening and they're like, okay, well, here's where I get my wine. I don't know what that means.
So because we wanted to be a sparkling wine producer, of course, we went to Champagne, like Justin went to France, and immerse yourself, and somebody's got to do it, right? And you drink
Another
champagne morning, noon, and night, because you decide what is this? I mean, is it is it still wine with bubbles? I mean, what differentiates it? Well, just like still wines that champagne is. It's got different, characteristics and what makes it amazing, and it's got different flavor components in it, and so just like still wines, and so because we're so small and we're so new, we had to put something in our tasting room essentially for the public. We just don't go make 10,000 cases of wine. So we did some still, and most of the lion's share of what we had, we produced 200 cases in our last year, and so most of that is waiting to be bottled, and we have yeast in there, and it's on its lees and waiting, to the wine to mature. And it's kind of an interesting thing for us because, we love champagne, and so champagne is in France, right? But sparkling wines can be in Virginia, and so that's where we're headed. That's where we want to be, and that's what we want to be known for. And so, unfortunately, with that, or fortunately, we have some still wines. But and until then, that's why we have the French champagnes in there. And while it's not Virginia, it still gives somebody the experience of coming in and trying something. They get something local with us that we've grown, estate grown, grown organically, made organically. It's not organic because it was made in a place that is not certified, so it decertifies my grapes. So I cannot put that on a bottle. But it is as close as we're going to get for now. We don't add sulfites to the white wine. So anybody who's sensitive to that. But so anyway, we have kind of moved to be what we want to be. Just it's our little niche. It's not anybody else's, and we're very happy with that. We love sparkling wines. And but they're different. I mean, they're different in the sense that there's a different process in the way they're made a little bit. Justin, you would probably answer that more. I mean, the yeast.
There's actually a number of different ways to make sparkling wines. We don't call it champagne because that can only be produced in champagne.
Right.
In champagne. But you have method champenois, which means fermented in the bottle, and so the secondary fermentation actually occurs inside the bottle, and ideally you want it to sit on the lees for a year, and that's where that kind of toasty, nutty nuances come from. Then you have method Charlemagne, where they're basically pumping CO2 into the wine and then bottling it that way. So there's many different ways to produce it, but the key thing is that I think is that what we're trying to do is to preserve that land, keep it in farm uses, have people come out to our area, see the bucolic environment that we're in, preserve that historical landmark, and pass it on to the next generations. They're not producing any more land. And developments are growing constantly, not only here, but towards us. And so we have, I think most of us view ourselves as stewards of the land and trying to do the best thing to preserve that land. We're not organic. We're sustainable. A lot of the Virginia wineries kind of follow that method as well. And one of the nice things that we have going for us, we're talking about our area, most of us dry farm. And that doesn't, that's a term that most people have never heard before, but we don't use any irrigation to grow our grapes. I mean, if you looked at growing grapes in Napa, you have to have irrigation. It's part of the reason why there's huge water problems out there in California. That's not sustainable. It's not sustainable because they're bringing that in from somewhere else. And what we're able to do here in Virginia is sustainable, is much more in that French methodology of making wine.
So how long does it typically take? Say I decide tomorrow, okay, you guys have sold me. I'm now I'm passionate about wine. I'm going to grow my own grapes. I'm going to make my own wine, and I have 100 acres that I want to do it on. From the time that I choose which variety I want to grow and put them in the ground, how long is it before I'm going to get my first bottle?
4 to 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. So it's
my passion just went.
Your attention just went.
It is a labor of love, and all of my compadres here went out with this mindset in mind. I mean, when you guys met with us, we told you this is an investment that's going to take a while to see the fruits kind of sown back to you. And we told you the exact same thing. This is a long-term endeavor. This is not a flash in the pants. I guarantee that these people in this room will be sitting here in 20 years still producing wines, if not more people in this room. Obviously, the Valley has grown tremendously in wine production, but there'll be more people in our area doing this. But it's not for the faint of heart. It's not to be taken lightly, and you have to really go into it with strong intentions that this is a lifestyle.
That's why we became a vineyard. That's why vineyard. I grew grapes for the first 5 years, because if I couldn't grow grapes, there's not even any point in going any further, right? So we decided that's the beginning and the end. We were going to be able to see if we could grow the grapes first. And if we could do that, then the next step
then
would
you'd be the
be
winery.
If you grow them.
Yeah, if we could grow them. If we didn't, if we
bottles
were
will come, yes.
a total flop in that, then we had to reevaluate our total business plan and look at this, because it's a huge investment. It's a huge investment. I mean, we've talked to accountants, and the minimum any winery is going to have at least $1.5 million invested before you even, that's the basics. That's truly the basics. And so when you start committing that kind of money, and then there's 10, 12 professions involved in it. You really have to wear, like, Shawn said, a lot of different caps given any one day. And it is not for the faint of heart. And it's
the
very
travel budget
difficult.
to France.
And when you have weather that, like we had this particular year, it challenges all of us and trying to produce, and you work with what you have, and then the more experienced you are and the better you are, the better end product, hopefully, that you're able to put out, because, you're used to dealing with. I mean, Virginia typically, weather-wise, is going to have this type of event every 4 to 5 years. There's just nothing we can do about it, and we're going to have to be. It's basic farming 101, and that's what we have to be prepared for as grape growers, or that a lot depends on the quality of that grape. I mean, the winemakers can only do so much.
Yeah. And Shawn, you touched on this a minute ago. We've talked a lot about, you joked about all guts, no glory. But there is a little bit of glory because there are competitions. And I think, Justin, you mentioned something about, competitions too. So how do they work? I mean, because I see press releases that Justin sends out that various local wineries have won this or have been named that. Is that based on the number of cases you produce? Is it actual tastings?
Well, in this industry, there's a variety of different awards. We can submit wines to different wine competitions all over the country, internationally. Locally here in Virginia, the Governor's Cup is a large, widely known competition. I couldn't even list all the wine. There's hundreds upon hundreds of wine competitions across the country. Some for only female winemakers. Some for grapes only grown south of a certain border. It's regional. It's international. So there's all types of competitions that you can enter. And generally, your wines compete with wines of the same type. So your Chardonnay competes with Chardonnays. Petit Verdot competes with Petit Verdot. Fruit wines, for those that make it, of course, we don't make fruit wines here, but there's those categories. And then, just a little shout out and a little proud moment for myself here. There are also other awards that you might not even know you're getting. So we just were notified this weekend of 3 that we received.
We're doing breaking news on the podcast.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to say anything about this until Saturday. So Northern Virginia Daily does a Reader's Choice Award, and Valerie Hill was selected this year for the 4th year in a row as the best winery.
Cool.
And for the 1st year in a row, the best wedding venue in the area, which is really was a real shock to us. And then we were also notified that Virginia Living Magazine listed our port style wine, which is made with the grape Norton, as the best Norton in the state of Virginia.
Wow.
And that was selected by their management. That was not a Reader's Choice Award. So we were really excited about that too. And that's a little nod to Justin as well, because he had a hand in making that port. So.
It's really
Congratulations, Justin.
I think I didn't even know. Thank you. For us, I guess, again, I've said it a couple times, our goal is to produce world-class wines and to be recognized on a world-class stage. And so competitions don't carry as much value for us as does reviews. But with that being said, my kind of toot is that we have over, since I've been doing it, we have over 65, 85 point wines or higher just from one wine magazine called Wine Enthusiast. But even with that being said, it's still there's kind of a threshold quality that you have to meet And so once you pass over the threshold of is this quality wine or is this not quality wine, is it bad? Then it becomes very subjective. And so these editors who do nothing but write about wine, evaluate your wines, and then write about your particular wine. And we want them to be doing that blindly without a lot of knowledge of where it's coming from, so that you can understand that this is truly being judged on a world stage level. But with that being said, my favorite wine is the one that's selling the most, and that's critical and important. I mean, we made a rosé that got 85 points from wine enthusiasts, and I thought it deserved much more, but it was sold. It was sold out, and that's a judge, and so. That's more important. What our own people walking through the door are the harshest critics for us, and they'll tell you with their purse strings what they like and what they don't like.
Yeah.
And so quality be damned as long as it's above a threshold. Of course, I really want it to be really 100 points, but. Quality be damned, the customer dictates whether it's good or not, as long as it doesn't contain the fatal wine flaws.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you can have somebody that, everybody's palate's different. You know, one of the things that we do at our winery is that we don't tell people what they're supposed to taste, because wine is such an individual basis, and you experience it depends on what time of day it is, what you've eaten, what the weather is. And, sometimes you go
even
there.
down to the music that's playing in the
Even down to
background.
the music that's playing in the background.
If this is your first or third winery
Exactly. Well, that matters. It does. And so we if you come in, you like the wines that our wineries offer, then great. We love to have you, and it's not going to be for everybody. There's probably going to be somebody that comes along and says, this isn't my style wine, and it could have won all kind of awards. And there could be, like Justin said, one that wasn't that great, and as far as 85, but he thought, it's probably his best seller. So, it all depends. And, it's such a journey. And the biggest part is that people can come out and take that journey.
Yes.
And they can learn. And every time they taste a wine, no matter whose winery it's at, they learn something. And they learn about themselves, their palate, and what Virginia has to offer. And so it's quite a journey. That's the amazing, wonderful, fun side of it, to be able to share that with people that are in the industry or not in the industry. But it is. Wine is so amazing, right?
That's definitely. So, Justin, let's do this. Let's wrap up this whole segment. My final question is to you, because I know that we have the Shenandoah Spirits Trail.
Yes.
How important are wineries and breweries and cideries to you from a tourism perspective?
It's people have somehow it has just like Justin was saying. If you want to taste something, experience something that's truly local and get that literally local flavor, that's where people are going to the wineries and the craft breweries as well, because they're looking for that. Everybody's flavor is influenced by where they are, and the history and the culture and wherever that locality is. So. We're kind of telling our story of the Winchester area, of the northern Shenandoah Valley. We're telling that story through what we produce locally. So you'll get that experience when you go to these breweries and wineries. And that's part of an experiential thing, where versus, we love our museums, but you go into the museum and then you walk out of the museum. And it's great. They're wonderful, and you learn a lot in there. But then people also want to go to the breweries and the wineries, because then there's a deeper experience when you go into there, and you actually get to
take a little bit of it home with you.
Right. Even Winchester Brew Works, they've got kombucha there, so you don't have to booze it up. You can have non-alcoholic. But where we think we're really lucky here in the northern Shenandoah Valley with the Spirits Trail, we love our friends. I'm good friends with the folks over in Loudoun County, and I'm friends with lots of them. But we have a completely different experience here. You go into those wineries there, a lot of those are these big multi-million-dollar estates, and they have, a big 20-minute, 30-minute line to go into your tasting, and there's your tasting, and off you go, which is great. I mean, they're really popular.
There is a place
good
for
for
that.
them,
Yeah.
right? But the cool thing is, and this speaks to me, and maybe that's why I like living here so much, but you can go into our wineries and our breweries here, and you meet the people who are out in the field with the dirt under their nails, and they were just out there, and they come in, they're sweaty, and they're pouring it.
Well, I do try to shower
You
before
do,
I go to the
yes.
tasting
You are
bar, just
normally very
to let you know,
clean.
I'm
You are normally
usually seen clean when I'm actually serving. So just to
But
let's
that's
clarify
one of the-
that.
That's good to know.
But I think that's a unique differentiator for us, is that these are the people who are tied to the land, and they're invested in the land, and they're the ones that are out there. And then you'll see them behind the counter, and you can talk to them. These are the people that make the wine. I don't know how often you get behind the counter, but I have seen you at the winery, so I know that you are around.
I'm around. I'm behind it a
You
lot.
are it, right? You and your husband when he's not flying.
That's it.
So you really do, and the local breweries. These are the people. The men and women in these breweries are the ones that are making this stuff. They don't just own it and they work 9 to 5 somewhere else and
Or
we
live
pay
somewhere
somebody
else and just come here on the
These are the
weekends
people
and-
invested
yeah.
in it, and they're invested in our community. So I think we're so lucky here to have this the product that we have here, and I think that's why it's so different. And it's just a great experience. It's a different experience and a great experience, and it's critical to our tourism industry.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That's why we've been pushing it and we're behind it. We try to help as much as we can from where we are.
Awesome. Well, let's wrap up. Loretta, I'm going to come back to you. Tell me one more time, what is your web address where people can get all the information they need about you?
www.thebriede, BRIEDE, Family Vineyards with an S.com.
And Justin?
JamesCharlesWinery.com and Veramar Vineyard.com. And Veramar is Veramar.
Sean?
It's ValerieHillWinery.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. This has been a blast.
Thank you.
Or ShenandoahSpiritstrail.com.
Oh, look at you.
Oh,
Look at you. Yeah.
now you can say thank you.
All right, now I
Wrap
can
it
say
up.
thank
Okay.
you and
Had to get that in there.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.